Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I think I found the blueprint for Satan's short season, and it is the process church. Unbelievable how did this slide under the radar? Is the timing perfect from the Lord? As always, this is how it went down. I better show my little thing here. We got to go with this, right? Fair use, no medical advice, no financial advice, but I'm doing the thing with the thing that shows I know all about their rules, how important their rules are to them.
Single by a group called The Voice is one of the wildest British singles of 1966. Some sources erroneously claim that future David Bowie guitarist Mick Ronson provided the aggressive fuzz guitar featured on this song, but Ronson joined the band shortly after the release of this 45 and didn't play on the track. The story of The Voice is quite unusual. Several members of the group were members of a religious cult called The Process. The Process worshipped both Christ and Satan, and the song's apocalyptic lyrics were apparently influenced by the message.
Look at those all-American or all-English boys. A couple of those guys in the band, they like to worship the Satan and Jesus at the same time. They called it the process. And, well, Aleister Crowley and they all are going to, they all are here. Okay, we got to back it up. We're backing it up. They're forging things back in the ancient days to deceive people. Like they're forging, they find something in field in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, Minnesota, and they're like, hey, look, a Viking thing. That's fake. Somebody faked it a couple hundred years ago so that you'd find it now and they'd think there were Vikings here. Hey, we got to do a show.
Discovered in 1881, and this is an inscribed stone whose writing attempts to establish the artifact as being Akkadian, but which was actually shown to be a Neo-Babylonian forgery, although at one point it was thought to be an Old Babylonian forgery. It claimed to be created at the behest of Manishtushu, the son of Sargon of Akkad, and it declares that the renewal of the worship of the god Shamash and his associated rites should take place, but it, in fact, is not. What matters, though, is that it shows very clearly that the textual record mattered to people like Nabonidus and the Neo-Babylonian kings, and it shows that they had some sort of an idea about what it would have taken to establish imperial legitimacy by drawing on the deep past and on ancient religion. And it's because of the importance placed on religion that the Neo-Babylonian kings emphasized digging down to the actual foundations of ancient temples and restoring them where possible. Nabonidus uncovered the temple of Ishtar at Akkad, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, and which archaeologists in the modern day may have found. And when he restored the temple, he made it extremely clear that the bricks of the restored building were to be placed on the tops of the original foundations and
so that people would have to trust the forged history or the not forged history that this isn't the original mud flood building. It's been rebuilt by somebody who took it back down to the foundations, cleaned everything up to build it again so that it was indistinguishable from the original. That's kind of what he's saying here.
To be exactly on top. It was to be as if the temple had never fallen into ruin in the first place. Nabopolassar, the first king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, basically did something similar with the walls of Babylon itself, excavating down to the foundations, and when he located it, he took it as a divine sign and then he rebuilt them, incorporating the original foundations into his construction. When the Neo-Babylonian kings did things like this, they explicitly looked for the foundation deposits, usually taking the form of a text. I am so-and-so, I ordered this construction, that sort of thing.
So I guess some of them are fake, some of them are not. A little bit of the history on this quickly.
Portion of the video evidently found the same tablet, and when he did, There were 2 copies of it that had been made, and the original was housed in a fired clay box for safekeeping, and this was encased in clay for further protection, which produced a copy of the tablet on either side. And while Neo-Babylonians were certainly interested in the history of the ancient Near East, and while they did undertake archaeological digs to excavate the past and to use old artifacts and images, like the image of Shamash, to bolster their claims to imperial rulership, they were certainly not above forgeries in the pursuit of that attempt to bolster their claims. The key
Okay, so let's get a little bit of the
key
history.
artifact here is the cruciform monument of Manish Tushu, discovered
So there you have the name of it, and it exists. I checked it out. Trusting the system here. I guess I've got it set up at an exact time.
Druidism, which we've seen mentioned by Charles Manson, and the teachings of the Golden Dawn, a group to which Aleister Crowley belonged.
Well, the Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn, Black Magic, Aleister Crowley, I'm sure Blavatsky's in there. They have a plan, and it's totally blood-oriented. A little context.
They not only found evidence of animal sacrifices, but they found symbols like those used in the Church of Satan, upside-down pentagrams, and inverted crosses. Berkowitz admitted of the cult's satanic practices, quote, "This group contained a mixture of satanic practices which included the teachings of Aleister Crowley. It was, still is, totally blood-oriented. The Coven's doctrines are a blend of ancient Druidism, which we've seen mentioned by Charles Manson, and the teachings of the Golden Dawn, a group to which Aleister Crowley belonged, and Black Magic." When the site was later investigated, amidst the satanic graffiti, this piece of paper was found, declaring, quote,
"Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666.
The words that you just heard were taken from an album by the popular heavy metal band Iron Maiden. This declaration from the album precedes an Iron Maiden song, which speaks of ritual sacrifice and the emergence of the number of the
their
Antichrist.
process. Wow, you know all this already. Did you know this?
We fought the establishment. The black Muslims were coming in with the Quran on the dark side of the moon. And the Islamic arm
Magazine, The Process.
What about things like The Process? Do you remember reading that?
Yeah. I was in prison when Dianetics first started. Yeah, 1950. We fought the establishment.
He said not Dianetics. L. Ron Hubbard, 1950s, after the war, leading up to the reset with the JFK.
The black Muslims were coming in with the Quran on the dark side of the moon, and the Islamic arm of the church and the Masonry. I don't know how to put the Masons involved in that. I don't want to get tripped up in with anyone else on any other level. But he come up with Dianetics 1950. So a lot of the guys were interested in studying the way to process the mind, how to clear your mind from past confusion, how to resurrect the soul to be reborn within yourself. So that's where Scientology started. And then they started selling it, and then it got to be the process. And then the Church of the Last Day, the Last Judgment, I sent some people to England. I couldn't go myself, but I sent some people there to do some certain things to make an effect, to cause an awakening of an awareness in that. No, Bruce was just one person that went in that direction. There were some other people riding motorcycles that was doing some other things, No, I think if you go over them stones, where you got them big pile of stones over there, I think you see this mark on my forehead? Well, they got this mark over there and 2 or 3 of the stones. There was some other things doing with some stones and some reasons for. You know how the occult is. You get involved in all kinds of under darkness things that are running under nooses, that are running through just, I don't know, you know, it would take too long to explain it all. But yeah, you're right.
Well, you've got to doing with Scientology, you've got stuff in the process, some people said you're Satanist.
Whatever that means, you know, God is the devil. I mean, the clever devil or whatever, you know. It opens up to wherever you go, whatever you're going to use. Where are we going to survive? How's it going to go? You say, oh, I want to be all these individuals and I want to believe all these things, but then the wind blows in another direction. You say, whoa, that hurts too much. I got to change my mind about something, you know, because like when it comes down and we go down in the basement and you're laying up on the rack, you're going to do whatever the king tells you to do. It's simple, man.
The same. Wow. So they're working it. And remember, I mean, he was in prison most of his life, but when he got out, they had him ready to help the Beach Boys write some songs, you know, and they encouraged him the whole way. RJ has always been kind of fascinated with the Starbucks logo and everything like that. So I found out today that Catherine de Medici, the one, you know, queen that was supposed to be so evil in France and poisoning people, and she did the ballet. The first ballet was for Catherine's court, and it was something, you know, to where they were. It was like this is a picture of it from there. So we'll just look at some of the Catherine de Medici scandalous facts about the deadly queen, and you know, orphaned, but married, you know, in the right family. Eventually a pope was related to her, changed her life, you know, so she got bounced around as an orphan, passed between relatives of nobility, but then sent to a convent. It's, you know, they got it all figured out, man. Look how they dressed. They woke up in the morning and said, these are my clothes. And some people dressed them and other people dressed to go dress people. But it was a Starfort world. We know, look how they dressed. At least somebody wants us to believe, they want us to believe they lived in towns like this and dressed like that and pretended to be Christians to other cities when they came, and did, you know, and kind of covered up what was going on all the way, you know, and everything was a symbol, everything was a sign. They had rediscovered this, you know, they know they couldn't build buildings like that, yet there they were. Somebody had to be the king, somebody had to be the pope, and it's all led up to what we have now. The wheat and the tares grew together. God ruled them in the golden age with a rod of iron, and they couldn't form nations. They could pass their doctrines, you know, and they probably figured out at the end who was wheat, who had the conspicuous consumptions, who was trying to, you know, let's live up to what we're supposed to be doing here. Look how they dressed. Hats were gang signs. Everything was out, you know, our city is good. So we still know that kings, their consorts, their mistresses, still end up like, you know, Queen of England right now. She was a mistress for a long time, but you know, they have plans. Sometimes it involves poison. You know, is that the year of our Lord 1555? Probably. Woo. Okay. So for now, I'm going to throw some names at you. Cosimo Ruggieri. You know, this is the John D who ran Queen Elizabeth, you know, but he ran Catherine de Medici. teaching her the black magic, the occult, the witchcraft. He was advisor to the queen. England had to have John Dee. They had to have this guy, and he ends up, in the late 1600s, early 1600s, working for the high ups. And it's the Serpent Queen. It's going to be, how can we blend in their astrology and stuff? So she is. I suppose this outline of a chain is supposed to somewhat symbolize cleavage. I don't know. Pretty broad-shouldered Michelle Obama look there, throwing some hand signs. But so here it is. You can read about her. She's bad. She's just the whole Medici family. And I think, pretty much did they sponsor the Leonardo da Vinci, or that's too late for that? But anyway, big into the arts. The saint, this probably will give you an idea of what she does. Catholic mob violence against people who were going like, Catholics, you're doing some things pretty crazy here. So she decided hey, let's go kill their town. And the survivors that can't fight back will burn at the stake if they don't convert to Roman Catholicism, because that made sense to them. This guy had to go. He wasn't Roman enough. This guy said, okay, mommy, go get him. Wow, look at that assassination. Attempted assassination. Nobody decided to check that window. Standing on a slopey roof. There she is, glorying in her. Yeah. So they're dead. Good. They're happy. Burn the survivors. These are their history. This is their history, and it's their process. What do we got going here? Does this picture get bigger? Look at those guys. They're happy, learning their doctrine. So you went in and killed them? Yep, we did. Okay, good. So they got him killed. What are we going to do? We're going to set up a government. Throwing names at you here. There's one. This wasn't the girl I was looking for, but just another Maria Sophie. This one's from Bavaria. Ended up being the queen of the two Sicilies. Started out as a consort, but slept her way to the top, because that's how, I guess, people used to get ahead. Some people, they go like, hey, they have a casting couch, I'm on it, let's go. Other people, later go like, I can't believe I had to do that, but I did it. So there's here's the Maria Sophia Elizabeth, wife of King Peter II of Portugal. Okay. Again, she paid her way to be the queen. She must not have been one of those orphan ones. Anyway, throwing the names at you. Just look how they dressed. Really? What is this black sun? That's kind of like the symbol for the process church. It's what the neo-Nazis and all those people that are, into the white power. There's difference in people. Eugenics wasn't a bad idea. It's all coming back. It's bubbling underneath the surface, but it was a Nazi thing, and it was their SS thing, and a lot of people still like it. I guess Aleister Crowley kind of liked it. There's that Ukraine. That's the Ukraine thing, right? So another Rosicrucian, Theosophy, the New Age. They started a new order of the Solar Temple because, the Rosicrucians, they basically said, well, we did World War I and World War II. Our job is done. We've got the fiat money, and they wrapped up their doors in the 1970s. But then they must have needed another one to go like, wait, we're not finished yet. And so they decided, let's get to those hippies that are into, hey, the medicine of the modern world is bad and you could be very spiritual without Jesus. And if they get you to join the Freemasons, next thing you know, you're standing there with the rolled up pant leg, a knife at your throat saying, you are swearing, understand that you have a death vow now, right? We'll kill you and your family if you ever tell our secrets. That can make you stick with the homeopath or the alternative medicine if your heart hasn't been changed. You can either do it out of love for Jesus Christ or self-preservation because you got hooked on, like, hey, I've got a chance to make it work in this world. Bentham, Jeremy Bentham, he was into all of those ideas. As a matter of fact, Bentham's essay back in the 1700s was the first known argument for homosexual law reform in England. Wow. And not only that, but he was into that. And that's, yikes. What? He didn't like it, but he's famous. The world couldn't do without him. He's a social reformer, jurist, philosopher, founder of utilitarianism, how to maximize happiness and well-being. But without Jesus and with the love for the little boys, that it seems like a lot of people in the Catholic churches, I think they paid billions of dollars to cover up that they have that same attraction. Big important things for him: the right to divorce. Unpublished at the time, but now they know what he thinks. He wanted to be treat right, treat the animals right. They're the good guys, we're the bad guys. And this guy, do they take it serious? Do they live this way? Is this the guy that invented how to make, what we need are prisons like this? And they built them. I think Alcatraz is like, well, we've all seen them. It's not like they didn't go, yeah, Jeremy Bentham, he's smart. We like him. They also preserved his body because when they made their deal with the devil, part of it was they got to take his mummified body to a meeting once a year for their corporation. And he believed, the greatest happiness is a type of hedonism, a life where you just do what feels good. But, he redefined the concept of pleasure and pain as well as spiritual. You believe that? What's going on here? So anyway, this is his body getting, mummified because he was such a hero to that world, because they were just on the verge of discovering Darwinism and that they were going, man is the humanist ideal. And there's his preserved body today. They call it an auto icon. And, he has to be preserved so that as long as Satan's short season lasts till 2046, he's going to have to go to a meeting once a year. They roll his body out, and he has to be present as a non-voting member. That's weird, right? This was They rolled him out. It's a production. They got his severed head. They display it every now and then. Hey, look there's Jeremy Bentham. He's a famous person that invented the prisons and everything. What and even utilitarianism, how to maximize happiness and well-being, and to do that, it basically takes a cell phone, an internet connection, and the people will be happy for the rest of their lives. That's what it's going back to. They're happy. They don't have to do any work. They can just check, how am I doing? And the Angry Birds or the the games where they do the first person shooting. So here is that old Babylonian period, a copy of an old Akkadian period discovered in 1881. How long was it really lost if you don't count the 1,000 years? So the people back in the day were serious about preserving their thing. And we're supposed to think they were all cavemen who dressed in loincloths. We saw how they dressed. We call them primitive. We call the Bible silly because they told us to. Every other point in history, everyone believed in God, but not today. So what's with this obelisk? This is some sort of a footnote. Of course, the effectiveness of this program depended on the target audience's ability to perceive the standardization and replication of the royal image as a sign of Medici's simultaneous and equal attention to the gods of each city that was now incorporated into the Akkadian state. Now, that's a nation state. They can be deceived by Satan. Among human viewers, those capable of recognizing any one statue as belonging to a larger uniform set pantheon could have been included at the level of production. The scribes were responsible for the inscriptions and the artist who created the statues. At the level of consumption, the audience is more difficult to identify, but it would have included those who had the means, the need, or the right to travel from city to city and temple to temple. Beyond the human audience, Medici's message could have been directed at the gods themselves. Last sentence. Through this mobility, the gods could have observed the ruler in his various sculptural manifestations as a permanent and equal presence in the temples. Some point in history, they really did. All the nations went through a thing of like, look, we understand now that there's a different God for every area, and it's good to keep that God happy, but over them all, there's one God. And the process wants people to believe that Satan and Jesus are the same. That's the process church. So these statutes, the oldest statutes ever known, that's what they say. Am I saying statutes or statue? Discovered in 1893, made of reed, some pottery, but it's pre-pottery. Neolithic B area from where they say Abram, God's friend was. Just show you there. Are they made in the image of God, male and female? There's no gender or anything else, and the only emphasis on these statues are the faces. That's weird, right? It doesn't seem like that'd be The first statue, but there it is. That's what history tells you. Weird, right? So here's that band, The Voice. They did that song, they got a hit song, and then they broke up and moved because the Process Church was moving. Their song, one of their first ones that led to punk rock, is what they said, is, "The world careers like a speeding train that never will return. Its destination is coming fast. Its frantic journey is its last. Each man, woman, child, and boy returns this journey to enjoy. You know the end is near, and you're laughing out of fear. The world is on its way. Every passenger will pay. If he stays on the train to disaster, the world is the train to disaster. You feel the flames of the burning train, destruction, fire, and searing pain, but you decide your fate. You can jump before it's too late. The world is on its way. Every passenger will pay. If he stays on the train, the world is on the train to disaster. Put your grunge, put your whatever you want. But there is a Process Church of the Final Judgment. That's their logo. It's the 4 P's that make up a semi swastika. So I guess it goes from Sigmund Freud using this flying saucer, scouting, space operas, the U.S. Navy attracted, look at, this is Salt Paco telling you we found them. They did it. We were right all along. We were absolutely right, and they were wrong. They did it. It's these guys who go with start with the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the bad guys that's setting it up, getting the whole world to join those Masonic things and then not knowing, hey, when they tap you on the shoulder and say, you want to increase your business and have some really good friends, they don't tell you it's a death cult that they'll kill you. They're promised to, we'll kill you. What's this? Oh, that's Nimrod. So the people that write those famous maps and everything else that, I think this was Ortelius. This is how he drew Nimrod. And yeah, I get it. He's a giant. Some of these people are big compared to the people on the roof. Different sized people, but he's not dressed like a clown. He doesn't look like, oh, I'm a disembodied spirit. Right? There, I made a thumbnail out of that. You ever heard that? Trust the process. It started when your local sports team, that you have to kind of identify with because that's my team. Good or bad, I'm with them. Trust the process is, well, eventually this guy invented it. Plant the seeds of trust. Trust the process. Yeah, we'll lose, but we're smart. Eventually we'll get the number 1 draft choice and we'll pick it up and, stay sharp, confident, and focus on the process. That way you can lose. And then at the very end, when you go like, oh, well, the other guys just got a Nephilim, a great player, Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, just those quarterbacks that end up in Green Bay, which is like in the middle of nowhere, right? But somehow you can work the process all you want in a big city, but every now and then the process demands a Green Bay, the little guy, we can do it. We pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps. It is all a plan that leads to your destruction. They don't love you. They don't have an eternal plan of salvation. They don't want you to walk the narrow road. They want you to be like a Jeremy Bentham and just think, if it feels good, do it. That's not a good idea. That's never the message that you'll get here. We're pretty strict on that Bible. We like to go with that. And Please join. Well, that's RJ and I. So please join us later. We'll be busy. You know what we do. This is only part of my job. I got to go be my full-time student, my full-time housekeeper. So you enjoy the rest of your day. And please remember, it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Why would me and my friends tell you anything else? We always talk about we're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart, and we do. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame.